The story of Moses and the Israelites fleeing Egypt for the promised land is a story that we kind of tell in fits and starts in our proclamation of Scripture here at Mass. As we begin the Triduum at the Mass of the Lord's Supper, we tell the story, first of all, about the Passover, of how the people are instructed for their journey to freedom, knowing that it will be a hasty and immediate departure. And at the Easter Vigil gathered here, we tell the wonderful story of the Exodus, of the waters of the Red Sea parting, so Moses and the others can cross safely, fleeing the Egyptian forces. Some of us know the refrain, "Horse and chariot are cast into the sea." But we rarely hear very much of the story. It was a 40-year odyssey. It was a long story, but we tell very little of it when we gather here for Mass. But a few weeks ago, we did. It was the story of Moses and his vast retinue coming upon the Amalekites. This is one of several local tribes that they would come upon on their journey. People who are understandably suspicious of these outsiders and not eager to give up land, fearing they might lose land or water. Suspicious of them because they looked different, they sounded different. And so the Amalekites block the passage of the Israelites, and a battle ensues. What's clear from the outset of the story is that for this to succeed, people are going to have to take on various tasks, those for which they are best suited, but also those for which they are simply needed. Moses astutely realizes, for example, that Joshua is perfectly suited to lead this battle. For his part, Moses remains on a hill overlooking the battlefield. He is kind of a spiritual or somehow motivating presence. To this point, Moses raises his arms. It is as if he is kind of offering a means of support, of encouragement. Indeed, what they discover is as long as Moses holds his arms up out over the battlefield, the Israelites prevail. But if he lowers his arms, the Amalekites begin to succeed. And so the key to victory seems clear. Moses must keep his arms raised. Now, Moses was a mighty figure, but he was also human. And so after a certain amount of time, as would be true for any of us, what happened? His arms grew weak and weary, and he begins to lower, to drop his arms. And then, of course, we know what happens out on the battlefield. And so two guys in his inner circle, Aaron and Hur, come forward to help Moses hold up his arms, to keep them in place. And in the end, the Israelites triumph. Now, this is a violent and regrettably bloody story, but it's also one that speaks in its own way to the value of creativity and ingenuity, of generosity and willing spirits. The value of a community in which individuals realize a need for one another, each person recognizing a role in that community. Certainly that is demonstrably true in the larger Christian story. The gospel of Jesus does not take flesh, it does not become real, it does not begin to transform the world without a vast cast of characters. People such as those saints and souls we celebrated here at Mass a couple weeks ago. The living stones of the church we celebrated last Sunday. The living stones who are so consequential to the temple in which Jesus stands in today's gospel. Not to mention all of us. We are the living stones. We are essential parts of the Christian story as the gospel story unfolds. Maybe less dramatically or consequentially, but significant in its own right, is how we function as a community, as a parish. The roles we assume as individuals, our roles in holding up, if you will, the arms of the church as we find it here in our community. What we do, what we contribute to the various commitments and needs of parish life. I think most essentially of those roles in which we directly embody the gospel teaching of Jesus in responding to the plight of the poor, those among us who serve the hungry and homeless. I also think of Jesus and his command to take the good news to all people and those who help to form the young disciples of our parish. And of course, there's also the matter of how we help to raise the arms of our parish when we gather here to celebrate Mass each Lord's Day. I've learned over the years that it can seem among some of us that there is always someone else to be a Eucharistic minister, to help to share the body and blood of Christ. Someone else to be a server, a young person or an adult to help Father Al and I keep on track to celebrate Mass more efficiently. Someone else to be at the doors to welcome those who gather. Someone else to lead us in song. It can, I guess, seem that those things just somehow happen, that someone else will always be there to do it. But not always, and not necessarily. And often, too often, we are left to call upon the same people doing those various ministries, holding their arms up week after week. And they are growing weak sometimes, hoping that someone else might step forward to help them, to help share in the privilege and the responsibility of these ministries. Turn to pages 3 and 4 in your worship aid, please. I never direct people to look at the worship aid during the homily, although some do, and I see you. Listed on those pages are the various ways in which we contribute to the life of our community. And I call special attention to that first section on worship, of how we help to support the Eucharistic community that gathers for worship 3 times in our parishes every Lord's Day, as well as the other essential ministries and tasks of parish life. There's also the matter of holding up the arms of our parish through our financial support, giving attention again to how much we share, considering how to make that determination, giving attention to encouragements for contributing online, giving support to the diocesan annual appeal, as well as other means of generosity and support. Please take that home and give some careful, prayerful attention to those possibilities this week. Look too at that image of Moses and Aaron and Hur holding up his arms, and see how you might see yourself in that image in regard to the life of our community. I have to think that this could be a more collective, shared effort. Those time and talent pledges can be ripped out of the bulletin and brought to Mass next weekend, and we will get in touch with you for orientation and other things to help get this on track. St. John Henry Newman, the patron of our shared system of Catholic schools here in Wausau. And actually, he was featured in last week's Click Things email. St. John Henry Newman once famously observed that God had created him for some definite service, some purpose, some particular work. I am a link in a chain, he said, a bond of connection. Calling upon the intercession of St. John Henry Newman, may we recognize our role in some definite service to our parish, strengthening our link in this chain, more clearly helping to hold up the arms of the church.